This is the mental mix, so welcome. Toxic masculinity. Is it a real thing?
I think growing up, especially in those late 90s, early 2000s, the black male had to be hard and be tough, and we couldn't show emotion. And if you show emotion, you was looked at a certain way.
So how do you guys prioritize your mental health and well-being?
I realized, just like you through the journey, what I realized was learning what my triggers were. Because when I didn't know them,
I think these spaces are extremely important because, a lot of times we're in survival mode, so we can't feel those emotions. We can't have the time to feel sad or feel excited or feel happy or feel, or even feel anxious.
So like my opportunity anytime opportunity I get to break down those walls, those stereotypes that are placed upon us as adolescents.
I started this project over a year and a half ago. This is almost 2 years in the making. I've been to so many things in intimate spaces where women come together and they're able to communicate about what's going on in life and so many other things. So this is the start of a safe space for brothers to kind of do the same. Y'all have waited long enough, or I've been waiting on y'all. Let's be clear, y'all late. No, I'm just kidding. Again, I'm Tony Harris. This is the mental mix, so welcome. Capital MEN, because it's for the fellas. I started this project over a year and a half ago. This is almost 2 years in the making, and it started out as an idea to bring brothers together in a space to where we could connect, communicate, and collaborate. Not just about work, sports, or the ladies. That's the nice way to say it, because when we're together, it's just it's different. So I realized when I'm with a lot of my friends who are women, they link up. These girls have girls' night out, brunch. They got like wings and wine night. Like I've been to so many things in intimate spaces where women come together and they're able to communicate about what's going on in life and so many other things. So this is the start of a safe space for brothers to kind of do the same. And what initiated all of this was I had started seeing so much. If it ain't Jesus, hang it up. What started all of this was there was a lot of stuff going on in the media. I'm sure we've all seen what was going on with Twitch, or moments where people kind of laughed at what was going on with Tyrese and Will Smith and so many other people, not just celebrities. There were people in my mom's neighborhood where I'm from, guys who had gotten into fatal domestic violence situations. And a lot of times in those spaces, brothers were literally crying out for help, but there was no one to listen or pay attention until it became a hashtag or somebody could get views or streams from it. And I wanted to change that. So this is the start of a conversation of us prioritizing men's mental health and well-being. So this isn't your therapy session, but this is the start of a therapeutic process. So I appreciate everybody for being here and taking the time after a busy work day. I went to work today and I'm tired too, but I'm here and I'm happy to be here. So thank you for your time. I'm going to kick this off with my brother Ronald Taylor, who is going to give us a few words, spoken words, some poetry, and he goes by the name of Speak Ron. So if you will, please.
Dear God, every morning the sun greets my face, I'm confused. Lost in pages of meaningless verbiage attempting to define you. So why did you breathe into me today? Why did you make my heart beat this way? Why does today start off heavy like every day? Heavy like a chain dipped in molasses, wrapped around a brick, dripped to the sides of my hips, dear God. Every morning when the sun greets my face, I'm confused. Lost in pages of meaningless verbiage attempting to define use. This body, it's broken, and I want to fix it. Perhaps it's through the slice of a knife. Perhaps it's through a sip of bleach. Perhaps through a leap into a storming sea. Perhaps through a narcotic drug laced so well, not even Lucifer can light my eyes. Perhaps through the chemical bonds to the walls of my throat. Perhaps through the intricate weaving of a rope, Billie Holiday, intact poplar trees, dear God. Every morning when the sun greets my face, I'm confused. lost in pages of meaningless verbiage attempting to define use. God, why do you call me to this bathroom floor? What lessons or parables or commandments must I endure? Will you enlighten, perhaps even elucidate? Or will you sit up there and watch while we all deteriorate? Will you allow me to be hurt by a lover once again? Will you allow me to strap this needle for my pain? Dear God, will you hear my cries? Because I ain't feeling good. Will you take another black boy from this hood? Dear God, that last method is setting in and the ambulance still ain't here. Dear God, I'm tired of writing these letters from these bathroom floors. It's 1:35 a.m. and these letters don't hit the same anymore. Take my last breath. Send my love to the grave. At the funeral, invite no one, because we've been dead for days. Dear God, every morning when the sun greets my face, I'm confused, lost in pages of meaningless verbiage attempting to define use. And these are every black boy's blues. Thank you all.
Sheesh. Whoa, thank you. Thank you, bro. Whoa. You know how somebody set the tone and you be like, how am I gonna follow up with that? Like, I don't do poetry, but I appreciate you. Thank you, brother. I love you, man. That is how we chose to open up this space, because I want this to be impactful. So like, while this is a panel discussion and we're gonna be up here talking and answering some real questions, in the words of my little sister Jalen, I'm gonna keep it 8 more than 92. So this is a real space, real brothers. We're going to be asking some real tough questions. And it wasn't closed off to the ladies. Let me say this. It wasn't closed off to you all, but it wasn't a free-for-all invite, as you will, for my previous events and things that I would do, because we wanted this space for the brothers. Because, you know, we got the barbershop, but most times when we're in a barbershop, we talking about sports, ladies, the cars, and different stuff like that. But this is a different space. So again, I'm appreciative of everyone that's here. Thank you guys. What up, bro? Thank you guys for being here, and let's get this thing started. So I'm gonna introduce our panelists, and they're gonna come up. First up, we have my boy Fabe. He is from Indiana. He lives here in New York now. He's an educator, and I reached out to him and I was like, my guy, I got an idea, and I was like, I need you on this panel. And without hesitation, he was like, I'm in. And that's the kind of the brothers that you want around you, the type of support that you want around you too. So I appreciate you for being here, my brother. You can grab that mic there. I think it's on already. If it's not, just press the little button. I don't know how to use it now. So I appreciate you. Next up, we have Josh, the therapist. My boy, we interned together when we were in grad school, and we have stayed connected since then. And Josh is a clinical therapist who works with various populations. Thank you for being here, brother. So again, I reached out to him and I was like, I need you in this space. I need your clinical perspective, but I also need that realness, that raw honesty in a space like this. Cause there'll be times I'll call Josh and I'll be like, make it make sense, bro. Like, make it make sense. And he'll bring a lot of clarity to spaces and situations for me. And this last brother, the money man, Mr. Fortune, Rob Fortune, Fortune Advisory. I was actually a part of a panel that he hosted here at the Gentleman's Factory. And it was on mental well-being and finances and how they correlate. And doing that panel is what kind of sparked this panel in a sense. I had been working on this project for over a year and a half, but I wasn't sure how to actually deliver it. So once we did that panel, you know, the pieces just started to click and everything came together for me. And I was like, wait a minute, why can't we do this in a space, you know, like this? And the Gentleman Factory was perfect, actually, a space for us, by us. And, you know, this is the start of the conversation. So I'm gonna jump right into it because, like I said, we're gonna keep it 8 more than 92 in this space. what prompted you to say yes to being in this space? You could kind of reintroduce yourself as to who you are. What prompted you to be in this space this evening? What made you say yes?
Hello. Good evening. I'm Fabiene. What prompted me to be in this space is just a continuous conversation that need to be had for Black males to express how they feel. I think growing up, especially in those late 90s, early 2000s, the Black male had to be hard and be tough, and we couldn't show emotion. And if you show emotion, you was looked at a certain way. So like my opportunity anytime opportunity I get to break down those walls, those stereotypes that are placed upon us as adolescents, I'm gonna take it. And also just to help my brother out, support other Black men in events that they have going on.
My name is Josh. First and foremost, it's you. So, if you ask me to do something, I'm gonna do my best. You know what I mean? Like I told you, I'll fly to Kentucky if the event was there. But in all seriousness, I think the moment that you hit me up, I just have finished teaching a class, and we were talking about early death in hip hop, and how white men don't really think about when life is going to end. They kind of live in an aspect of they think they're going to grow old, whereas in Black boys we don't really think that far ahead. We kind of move in a way as if life is it's like kind of stopwatch. And I talked about the mental impact that it has on a lot of Black boys growing up. And so, I think these spaces are extremely important because, a lot of times we're in survival, so we can't feel those emotions. We can't have the time to feel sad or feel excited or feel happy or feel, or even feel anxious, So having this space kind of normalizing those emotions is, hella important. So I had to be there. Right.
First off, I'm a member of the factory. So anytime I can utilize this space and push the message out of what this is building for community, I do that. Second, I had to return the favor because what you brought to my event was nothing but astounding, right? But more so for me, like I run a financial advisory business, and my first thing is always about mindset when it comes to money. And what I realized is how much impact the stress of money has on people's mental awareness, and having to go through that with my clients on a regular basis actually led me to then really focus on my mental health journey, which I had recently gone through. So anytime I can come out and just talk about my experience and see if it can help someone else, or just get the message out there for like these two brothers said, something so important that a lot of people aren't really focusing on, and that needs to change. So that's really why I'm here, and anything I can lend to this conversation, and I'm humbled to be able to do it.
Perfect. I appreciate all of y'all, man. Like, this coming together was like a real moment for me because each person that's sitting up here, as you can tell, everybody is from a different profession, different backgrounds, and that's what it's all about, knowing that we can connect without having to always all be the exact same. So I suck at sport. Y'all, I love the game. I could go watch 1,000 basketball games. Do not put me on your team on the court. I'm not that guy. But I'm good in other areas. Like the church say, you gotta know your ministry. That ain't mine. So I appreciate y'all for lending your expertise in this, from your experiences when talking about our well-being and our mental health and how important it is. So let's get right to it. What do you define masculinity as? And I had the question because this is the buzz. Toxic masculinity, is it a real thing? Like, how do you define masculinity, and what exactly is toxic masculinity?
So for me, like, I really don't know how to answer that, right? Because I really don't know the answer to it fully. Growing up, I come from Haitian descent. If you know anything about Caribbean fathers, most of them, especially from the generation my father comes from, they don't really have conversations with their sons about anything to do with being a man or what you're supposed to provide or anything like that. So I was really raised by a lot of women. So I'm more in tune with emotions, things of that nature, understanding how what I say or what I do can affect somebody else, as opposed to what people would consider masculine or just being like this brother said, being hard, being tough, do all of that. So to answer that question, what's toxic masculinity? I would view it as someone who's utilizing that tough exterior to then force someone else or force a message that isn't really there onto someone else. That's the way I view it, because I never consider myself masculine, right? Or I don't view, even though I'm a man, I don't go and say, I'm a man, I do this, that, and third. It's really, I view myself as a person and saying, how do the things that I do affect someone else and vice versa? So I live by one rule is like, I don't ask anybody of anything unless I'm willing to provide it myself. So I think when I do that, it really puts me in a place for me to go, okay, how am I impacting this person with what I'm doing? And if they tell me that I'm doing something that's detrimental to them, then I can sit there, understand it, and then make a change.
It's definitely a difficult subject, specifically for myself, because I wear nail polish, I wear low cut blouses. Well, it's in the men's section, but it's a blouse. Let's be real. But but that's been that's been like an ongoing journey, right? Of that I've been through, especially growing up in the hood. I grew up in Far Rockaway, Queens. If you might know Far Rock, shouts to y'all. But it's it's difficult trying to manage and understand what masculinity is, especially growing up in a household where my dad wasn't wasn't very stoic, or he wasn't very detached, right? Like he was very involved in my like emotional upbringing. And then I had two older sisters and I have a mom, right? So like I was around emotions all the time, and I'm the baby, right? So inside the house, I was able to express this kind of this anti quote unquote masculine, right? Hyper masculinity in the household. But then outside, it was like a cover up, right? I had to be like very stoic, or I had to pretend that like I was extra tough, all right, or even be affiliated with certain people who were doing tough things, kind of get by. And so when I think about like toxic masculinity, I often kind of go back to Bell Hooks, when she talks about patriarchal masculinity, which is when you think about patriarchy, it's there to like destroy, to divide, to isolate, to harm, and so we see in ways in which that we taught what masculinity looks like is to pillage and plunder, is to destroy, is to conquer, right? Instead of building community, instead of building love, instead of being soft, instead of being embracing. And so I think masculinity itself can be assertive, but it can also be kind. It can be peaceful, it can be loving, it can be warm. It can be reassuring, so it doesn't have to be the way that we are taught for it to be, right? It doesn't have to be violent, it doesn't have to be harsh, it doesn't have to be cruel. But I think once it gets to that area, that's when we talk about, toxic masculinity.
I definitely agree with you there. That almost hit the nail on the head with that one.
For me, what defines masculinity is being your authentic self and not being afraid to be your authentic self, and being honest with yourself and being open. And I think when you come to defining toxic masculinity is when you're hiding who you are from your authentic self from the world to see. And so I think as long as you're being yourself, no matter positive or negative, I think that's authentically you, then you should go ahead and be who you are. But once you start hiding who you are to others and from others, I think that's when that toxicity began to abrupt.
True. I think for me, I used to look at masculinity. It was associated with a lot of things that. So I grew up in the South, raised going to a Baptist church. So masculine was going outside playing pick 'em up, bust 'em up. If somebody know what that means, like it's like two-hand football. If you catch the ball, you better know how to run, because if not, somebody's about to pick you up and drop you on your head. Stuff like that. So like for me, it was being tough, like kind of like you guys said, being tough, being able to be in control and have power. But also, as I've gotten older, what I've realized is that that same power that we associate with masculinity, there's a way that you can be masculine without being destructive. And like you said, I think whenever our masculinity becomes destructive in the spaces that we're in, whether it's the relationships we're in, whether it's the workspace, that's when it becomes toxic. And I think, people have run with this phrase toxic masculinity because it's a buzzword. It's catchy, it's easy to use and easy to throw out there, especially in a lot of spaces where if somebody is not getting their way and you are not being aggressive, but being assertive and standing firm on what your beliefs are and who you are, you may be a little bit toxic to them. And that's okay. I'm okay with being the villain in some people's story. Um, and like you said, being standing firm and being true to who you are. So the that's real. That's real. I'm glad y'all kept that 100. Most people, when you ask us men about toxic masculinity, you be like, that ain't me, bro. Like, chill out. So I appreciate you guys for being, transparent about that. When we're talking about, when I named this the mental mixing with the capital MEN, it was specifically for us fellas in talking about our mental well-being and how we prioritize that. What do you guys do? Or I guess I'll answer this first because prioritizing mental health and well-being, it was not always that important to me because I would just be go with the flow, do as I please. I'll fix it when I come to that. When I cross that bridge, I cross that bridge when I get to it. So prioritizing my mental health wasn't a priority, and I would just go with the flow of things. And then when things started to really spiral out of control, and I think this was when I was in grad school, and I started to realize I was like, oh, you the problem, bruh. So I was like, I got to get a grip on this because what happens is every single thing that you start to touch around you is affected by you and the way that you can be. And a lot of us, sometimes we're very powerful beings. Whether you may realize it or not, you influence a lot of people. You affect a lot of people with the things that you may say or do. So what I started to do when prioritizing myself was I had to stop everything. I cease and desist everything. And I really started to pay attention to what were some of my triggers. What were things that made me happy? What were things that, made me want to be like, let me destroy everything in this place. Like, what were those things? So when I started to identify those things, I wasn't ready for therapy yet. That ain't come too much later. Keep walking with me. I'm healing. But during that time, I was like in grad school, I was learning all of these lessons, theories, and things like that. And I was like, this shit don't work. And I'm being honest. And I am a proud LMSW now. And I use some of those same theories and techniques with my clients. But I teach them in a different way. I think for me, it was at that point I started to really stop and listen to self. So how do you guys prioritize your mental health and well-being? Like, what do you put first?
I'm in this stage now where I gotta really put myself first in order to like take care of others. So one thing I'll do is I'll make sure I get it in the gym to like release any stress that's been going on. That's a priority for me. I'm doing a better job of like talking to myself, saying it out loud, and like where I can actually hear it instead of trying to process everything in my mind. And then just like taking time to like really do what's necessary for me, and like trying to put like really focus on me, and find those little activities, whether it's playing video games, sitting in the house reading a book, or just sitting back and smoking a cigar. Find those little things that help me like just bring me back centered when my mental health starts to spiral a little bit.
The gym is a safe haven, y'all. I agree with you. I be watching his Instagram sometimes, his stories. I be like, I ain't lifting all that, but I'm gonna go. This man he be in there like going, but he played football, so that's a whole different story.
It's Creed 3. I'm telling you. Stop playing. No, I mean it's I think the physical. Oh, speak up. My fault, y'all. Listen, I had 6 clients today. I'm in my therapist voice, giving y'all R&B vibes. Sorry. But no, like the physical aspect of it is very important. Going to the gym, eating healthy, meditating. I think for me, very similar, like being in an MSW program. It's kind of like we're given like all these theories, right? And then especially being a psych major, I started to like evaluate myself, right? But therapy didn't come until maybe like 2019. I just came from a trip with the ex, and I was just like kind of feeling off, kind of feeling like I didn't know where to be.
Breakups will do it to you one day.
It'd be like that sometimes. But I walked into the room trying to figure out how to be a better partner. All right. But then it actually came back around, right, where like my therapist was like, how about you be a better person for you? And then that's when I started to kind of dig into like, the people pleasing, not setting enough boundaries and what was really draining me. And so, throughout that process, started to learn more about like, what my needs and wants, were and are, and it's just understanding like it's a journey, right? Like developing that loving relationship with self, knowing like what friends I can reach out to, knowing where like my peace is, creating peace at home. So when I wake up, I'm not anxious or concerned about, what's going to happen next in my own home. And just trying to like figure out like where my community is. So, gym, my therapist, my homies, my siblings, like my chosen family, all of them, it all composites of a healthy living.
I think I'm gonna end up repeating a lot of things that you guys said, which I think is amazing because it seems that we're very similar. But for me, the gym is a major one. Playing basketball. But I realized, just like you through the journey, what I realized was learning what my triggers were, because when I didn't know them, it was causing stress in my relationship, but also relationship with my son. And then that was spiraling into more triggers, right? So when I learned that, and I learned that it's okay for me to walk away and take my time for me to figure out what I need to do.
Teach me that. I don't know how to do that yet. I like to fight.
Yeah, I think a lot of times people don't want to walk away because they feel like they're disrespecting the other person in the situation. But I feel like if that person can't understand, you need to take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, a day, whatever, so you can get your thoughts in order. Because like this brother, I've always been able to have conversations with myself to kind of just run through things. I'm very logical. I hit things right away. And when I went through our mental health journey with my therapist, shout out Paris Johnson, she really put me in a place for me to understand that I was doing a lot of things right, as opposed to always looking at doing things wrong. And I was going through a lot of different things through injury, and like I said, with the stress of my relationship, stress with my son, that was really making me feel like I was angry, or that I wasn't really focusing on things I need to focus on or I need to pay attention to. That wasn't really it. So once I realized what those triggers were, how to take time for myself, and now consistently going to the gym, now that my injuries have dissipated, being able to play basketball again. Someone like me, like I've been in basketball like my entire life. I've been watching and playing basketball since I was like 8. And going through the injury that I went through, I wasn't able to play basketball for almost 3 years. And that was like super stressful. And I didn't really understand it. I was just like, damn, I'm just upset, or things are just bothering me. But I realized that I don't really have a lot of things for myself anymore. So once I realized that, that's when I realized that I need to prioritize those. So like if I have to push a meeting back or skip an event because I got to go to the gym or I got to go play basketball, I make sure I do those things. And that's what prioritizing does for you.
That's real. And that's a great thing that you were able to identify. Each of you were able to identify like what works for you. Because there's so many of us that we hold on to a lot of things and we don't even realize like, oh, I was carrying that for this many years, or I'm still holding on to this even after we done fixed the problem. And I think what would be beneficial for a lot of us as men is if we take that time to kind of just assess where we are and where, where's this? It don't always got to be anger. Sometimes you could be sad as hell and you're like, where's this coming from? Like, why did this one moment trigger me into a downward spiral? And sometimes it's hard to get up out of that, and it's not easy. And it's always good to have that type of, that support where you can call on somebody or even have somebody to check in with, even for a moment, to be like, I needed this more than you know. Rob, you talked about earlier financial stresses and how, our finances can play a major part in us being stressed. I know we have stresses all around us, whether it be work. Sometimes the damn alarm go off in the morning and I'm automatically like, F it. It's going to be one of them days. But then on top of that, you wake up. Our thing now is go get the bag. We got to chase the bag. We chasing this. And a lot, I don't know about y'all. I'm not a runner. So when I run, I get tired and that should be stressing me out. So I'm asking, when you get stressed, where, what's your outlet for stress? And when it comes to financial stress specifically, how have you been able to help your clients kind of alleviate some of that stress? Because a lot of times, a lot of the stuff that we're dealing with, what we're realize it leads back. They say everything leads back to the money. But then they also say more money, more problems too. So
Yeah, that's true. So now we're gonna hop into my wheelhouse, right? We're talking about finances. So what I try to impart on my clients, first and foremost, whenever I start talking about money, is that have them understand that money is like a construct. It's not like how it moves today is not really real, right? So if you're running, like you said, chasing the dollar every time, you're gonna be running for a very long time because the money is always going to be there, right? It's they print it daily, right? So it doesn't really have a true value that everyone can agree on and say, okay, it's worth this. So you have to say to yourself, what is it worth to me in comparison to the time that I'm putting in to go get it? So when you're saying what's more important, is it going to be the money or the limited time that I have? That's when I try to change their mindset in terms of that. Because everybody wants to get the promotion to job so they can make more money. Everybody wants to get a new job. Everybody wants to hit the lottery. Everybody wants to start a business. They want a side hustle. All those things are just triggered to money, right? So, but what are you chasing that makes you happy? What are you chasing that's going to set you up in the future so that you don't have to rely on the dollar, right? Because one of the worst things that I learned from my early experiences when I was working was when I worked at a bank and I was working with 70-year-old people that were at Tully. And I was saying to myself, like, I never want to be that. I never want to be 70 years old and still depending on someone else's paycheck. So I speak about financial freedom on a regular basis. And there's no dollar amount tied to it. It's not to say if you make 10 million, now you're free. It's really, how do you say, how much money do I need for me to have everything I need taken care of and for me to go out and do the things that I want to do? If it's 3 vacations a year, if it's driving a nice car, if it's living in a particular place, how much do I need to make to do that? And then that's your freedom. Because then you're not reliant on anyone's paycheck anymore, right? So the stress just continues to build because, like I said, it's a construct, so you're never really going to catch it, right? Until you set the parameter and then say, okay, this is what I need for me to be free, then you have an endpoint because every race needs to end, right? So that's what you need to do to make sure that you can relieve the stress, right? But there's so many other things on top of it, and we spoke about this at our other event. The job is stressing you, your family is stressing you, friends are stressing you, clients are stressing you, so is it even a job that I want to be at? So it's really trying to understand, what do you want as opposed to what they're telling you need to do.
So I want us to kind of phase into a different space and talking about, once you've kind of managed, you've talked about stress, and we've talked about like how a lot of us, we can get into these spaces where we may need to call on someone and we may need to be vulnerable in these spaces. Give us a time, I guess each of you, and I'll start, a time where we have been in a space where we needed to be vulnerable with our feelings or thoughts, but it's been challenging. I remember this was probably 2019, and I had, this is a job I had. I was working at a shelter. Lost a job. I was in this space. I didn't have a job. I did not work that entire year. I got innovative and started hosting these events and doing stuff. I was outside, y'all. But it was working for me. But during that time, if you like if you follow a timeline, looking at my Instagram or Facebook or whatever, that feed would tell you I was having the time of my life. But during that time, I think I was screaming silently the loudest, please help me, because I did not know what to do. I did not know where to turn. And I was here. I mean, I'm not from New York. I'm here. I have my frat brothers, and thank God, like brothers like y'all, and a couple other people who are in the crowd. Thank God for them. But I've literally been here for 8 years, so I built this foundation of being here by myself. So there's no going home to mama. There is no other family member here for me to turn to. I was literally like, bruh, if this don't work out, like, you're going to be evicted. You're going to be living in one of them shelters that you just got fired. I would literally think like that. But there was nobody that I could turn to and say, bruh, this is what I'm going through. So have you guys had those moments or spaces where you just been like, I don't know what to do or who to turn to? And like, how did you get through that challenge? And for me, getting through that challenge was like a lot of ups and downs, arguments for no reasons, because like you said, that you're stressed out and you're frustrated and you might take it out on somebody else. And that was that moment when I said, like, 2019, same for me actually, with with like actually getting into therapy. I was like, yo, I gotta do something. So that was it for me. That was a turning point for me where I was like, I gotta pay more attention to this because it was getting bad.
I mean, that's a challenge. I think I repeatedly have to respect and acknowledge that it's ongoing, right? Like it's especially for me, like it's easy for me to get into a space where I feel like I'm doing it on my own, right? Like I have the private practice. I do the scheduling, I do the administrative things, I do the billing. I'm the only employee, right? It's everything is in my wounded mind, right? Everything is on my own, right? But when I tap into my healed self, it's like, oh, okay, like I have supports, I have people who I can like go to for help. But it's a consistent like thing, of, like having to remind myself that I'm not alone. So it's always a challenge. Like I could say even last week, I was just like, damn, I'm not really feeling it. I feel kind of down. Like I'm not really with the shits today, and I almost went through the day. It was just like, I'm not gonna hit nobody up. I'm just gonna chill. I'm not gonna hit nobody up. But then, shout out to my therapist. I think about like the work that we've done together, and I have to lean into community. So as challenging as it is, I know that in the long run, that vulnerability of like telling my friends or telling one of my homies, like, yo, listen, I'm not feeling it today. I think that in itself, I've seen it since 2019, like that, how much that alleviates that pressure to like, have everything together, to, again, goes back to challenging that ego, that mask that we put on, that we have it and it's okay, it's all good, and so it's always a challenge. Like it's been a challenge for me since I was like maybe like 12 years old, you know what I'm saying? So like it's something that, I consistently work on. I've gotten better at it. So I don't spend 3 days not talking to anyone. Now I spend like 3 hours, you know what I mean? Then I'll be, all right, I'm bugging. Let me go text one of my homies.
But people don't understand. We don't understand that. You be like, yo, where you been? What's good? Like you,
Right.
and sometimes people will think that it's them. Mm-hmm. You'll reiterate that it's not you. I swear to God. Right. And if you decide to I remember I was dating this girl. She's probably watching this. Lord Jesus.
Oh Jesus.
So we were dating during the pandemic, and it was probably one of the best relationships I had ever been in. And I had gotten in this space where I just needed to grow and do me, like not in the sense of being these streets before y'all go there. I really just needed to tap into self, and I was like, I'm not worried about anything. I'm focused right now. And she was like, oh, well, you went out with your friends. And I was like, you don't understand how much it took for me to muster up the energy and the space to go into wherever happy hour or anything else that was going on. So I feel you on that. Like sometimes it ain't got nothing to do with the external or anybody else out there. If you're friends with somebody who goes recluse sometimes, just do them a favor. Check in on them. Be like, yo, you good? I'm just checking in. If you need anything, even some of y'all don't be meaning it, but just, check in with your people. But if people be saying that, I'd be like, yeah, bro, can you go to the store for me? Like, but that's real.
I'm gonna try to remember the question, but I think for me, I've been struggling with that since I was probably 18 when I had a daughter, and really figuring out. I think I was trying to prove. I spent too much time trying to prove everybody wrong instead of trying to prove myself right. And I was too busy trying to prove to everybody I was going to be a good father. I'm going to be a present father. That I kind of struggled because I was trying to go to the NFL. I was trying to hit all these, check off these other boxes, but I was too busy trying to prove everybody wrong, and I struggled with that. Struggled financially, trying to figure out how I'm gonna pay for daycare. I got a car payment, gotta work, gotta go to football practice, gotta eat. How's she gonna eat? I can't eat because she has to eat. And so it was like, and even to this day, like I still live with some of those anxieties, and I still battle with some of those now. Especially when it comes to like financially, just thinking like, is it going to be enough now that she's about to go to college now? We're in the process of that, and so just keeping all those in my forefront. I think one thing I've done is, like I said, have those conversations with myself, speak with a therapist, or speak with a pastor. Just talk with people, and it's not even about necessarily getting answers, but just having a conversation, because it's a continuous conversation that you need to have with yourself or with others. And it's not necessarily looking for answers, but it's necessarily just getting those thoughts out of your brain so they're not just sitting there brewing up until one day you explode.
That's real. Because it'd be a lot of times we be having these moments that turn into hours and days, and it goes on unless you tap in and check in with your people. And that leads this is the last question for this segment of the Mental Mix event series. I'm going to ask you guys, just in a quick summary, how can you support a brother that may be in need, and the next time that, or the last time that you needed support, what would you do differently?
For me, I think it's just, for one, you let them know you're there and you're here. Judgmental free, open space, say whatever you need to say to help you feel comfortable in whatever conversation that you need to have for you. Letting them know that you're there to support them, whatever struggles they're going through, and being there for them. Letting them know I'm there whenever you need to talk, no matter what time of day. Call, pull up, you need a drink, we need to go out, just let me know I'm there for you. What was the second question again?
The last time that you needed support, what would you do differently?
I think I would, going back to my teenage / early 20s, like really not trying to hold it all in and try to like shield whatever I'm going through from everybody and protect that, like really be more open, be more vulnerable, and be my authentic self more, not try to prove everybody wrong.
I mean, I think the biggest part is just making sure that we're open to having conversations with our homies, right? Like real conversations. Just even if it's just a check-in, like we said, right? Just checking in on them, seeing how they doing. I'll randomly like text my homies like I love you, so they can like realize that like
Y'all, he dead ass do that too. I be like, I love you too, bro. Like, what's it?
So I think that's like it's hella important because ultimately like it's almost like an open invitation, right? So like anytime my homies are struggling, like they'll hit me up like, hey, like, you have time to talk, no matter what time it is, no matter like where I'm at. I try to like be as available as possible, and if I can't be fully available at the way that they need to, I'll always let them know and call them back, but it's like it's more so of the symbolism of having someone to reach out to. I think most people, even in the instance of wanting to reach out, sometimes they just need to know that they can reach out to someone, like that safety of knowing that there are multiple people who they are in community with. They may not reach out in that point in time, but at least they know, and so one of the things that the challenges, right, that the last time I needed help, right, I think really is honesty, right? Like being honest with myself was like the biggest hurdle that got in the way of like needing help. You know, again, like growing up, um, you know, it felt like the message was like handle things on my own. So like being like a preteen, you know, growing up in the hood, there's gang violence, there's like violence that impacted the home, all these other things that was happening. I was just like, all right, I'm just gonna do it by myself. It's just me and God, right? It's grind mode. Like I'm just gonna do it. But you know, ultimately that impacted me in adulthood, because then it became, all right, I'm gonna do this on my own, right? And so that's the work that I'm undoing now, and that's, you know, from, you know, years ago, you know. So it's very important, you know, at least for me in my narrative, of reminding myself that like being honest with my feelings and my emotions allows me to be honest with my feelings and my emotions with the people around me. And so I would say that's the biggest thing.
I think to help another is just, if there's somebody you love, if somebody like friends or relationship, whatever, like try to get in tune with them, try to like understand like them, right? So that when you reach out, it can seem genuine to them. But also, like, if you know you haven't heard from them in a while, then you can reach out even more. The second thing I would say is, when you're having a conversation, like try to remove judgment and try not to provide too many opinions. Like what I learned is that people just need a space to vent. Like sometimes just saying it out loud to someone else, they already know what they need to do, but they need to get the emotion out, right? So when you're there and like, oh, you should probably do this, or you should do this next time, they're like, that's not what I came to talk to you about, right?
Right.
I just wanted to say what it was, and then we can move on, right? Because I already know what I need to do. For me, the last time I needed help, and I'll be honest, like right now, I just went through a situation that I probably still not even ready to talk about yet. But I wish at another time thinking about that I needed help, I wish I would have known it was okay to talk about my emotions. Like my brother here said, you know, feeling like you're Superman, you can take care of yourself. I went through years of that, of feeling like whatever, it's gonna pass, I can take care of it, it's gonna get better, whatever. But it doesn't really ever really get better. You have to talk about it. You have to find avenues to seek help, get help, right? So I think at that time, I wish I would have been able just to be honest and speak about it and to other people and see and take their advice or take their listening as me getting through it, as opposed to just trying to work through our own and then holding on to it. And then what I realized later is it affected me in so many other situations that probably wouldn't have been as bad as it could have been. So that would be like my advice and my point.
That's real. I appreciate y'all for just being like completely transparent this whole time. And like, I don't know where we all get that from. It seems like everybody has a shared experience of being like, I got this. We good. Okay, I got this. So we're going to work on that. And what we will do is we will be back with another series. I might want to bring this exact group back again because this is good. But we will be doing this again. So I want to thank each of you. I got a token of my appreciation for you guys that I'll be getting to you in a second. But for anybody else that is here and attending, next time get your ass here on time. Because you know you done missed a lot of good shit. But also the chance to connect with brothers, you know, you will miss that opportunity. You never know who's in the room and how beneficial you can be to them or they can be to you. If you want to see more of this event series happening and you want to support that, I have socks and ties that are part of this collection. If you want to purchase them, you can to support just ongoing events like this, because the alcohol and food weren't free. They ain't donating that to me yet. But I appreciate everybody coming out. Thank you guys so much. Man, bruh, I love y'all, man, for real. I appreciate this.
Good evening, everybody. Hello, I just wanted to welcome everyone. Also, my name is Keisho Saravia. I am the events and programming coordinator here at the Gentleman's Factory. So we have a lot of Black men in this room, and I think it would be remiss of myself to not introduce what goes on here at the factory. So if y'all let me y'all ears for about 30 seconds, I'll give y'all the spill. The Gentleman's Factory builds the Black man day by day through breaking isolation amongst you all. As Black men, we tend to grow in isolation, mentally, physically, and professionally. What we do here at the factory is we build that and grow Black men mentally, physically, and professionally through our events, through shared resources, and through moments like this. Tony is now a member of the Gentleman's Factory. Give a round of applause to Tony real quick for this amazing event. Yes, indeed. Mr. Rob Fortune is also a member of the Gentleman's Factory, and the man in the back, Mr. Alvin Irby, is also a member of the Gentleman's Factory. I wanted to shout, give them a round of applause. I wanted to shout them out because every one of you in here needs one another. We need a space. We pour out as men in our families, in the work world, in life in general. Who's pouring back into us? This is the space for us to do that. It's a co-working space throughout the day, and then throughout the week, it's the place where we get together and we are able to enjoy. Like I said, do different events, talks, conversations like this, yacht parties, everything you could think of, everything under the sun, professional development, workshops, all of that. So that being said, they got some drip in there. They got some drip in there.
I wanted to grab the bags before, but also you guys, there's gonna be a dope comedy show right after this. We are actually wrapping up so that they can come in and do what they need to do. So if you want a good laugh after all that you probably just took in, stick around. Right? But again, I appreciate you guys for coming out. This was really good for me. So I had this idea, this vision, and I wanted it to come together this way, and I didn't imagine that it would feel like this after we were, done putting this thing together. I literally put everybody in the group chats, and I was like, hey, I need y'all for this idea, and they didn't hesitate. So when we come together, we can make some amazing things happen, and I hope we can do more of that. So thank you.